Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. We're going to unpack one of the absolute most stunning, literally unthinkable scenarios you'll find anywhere in our source material. We're talking about a warrior whose physical might is so legendary it practically defies human comprehension. I mean, this is a hero who doesn't just win battles, he dominates them. He's like a force of nature. And yet, this explainer isn't about his greatest victory. Actually, it's about his sudden, incredibly shocking defeat. We are going to explore exactly how an invincible hero was brought to his knees. And the crazy part? It wasn't by an opposing army. It was by a sudden, overwhelming wave of panic.
So, let's dive straight into the core mystery here. Listen to this question from King Janamejaya to the sage Vaisampayana. You can just feel the absolute disbelief in his words. He asks, how could Bhima, also known as Bhimasena, possibly be stricken with panic at the sight of a snake? Now, to really get Janamajaya's shock, you have to remember Bhima's resume. The text explicitly tells us this is the exact same warrior who fought at Kuber's Lotus Lake and became the ultimate destroyer of fierce yakshas and rakshas. This is the guy who proudly defied Palestia's son and casually invited him to single combat. The very idea that this specific hero could feel fear is totally contradictory to everything we know about him.
And that brilliantly highlights the central paradox we're unpacking today. How does an unstoppable physical force actually fall to panic? We're looking at a classic David versus Goliath narrative here, but with a massive twist, because our Goliath is facing something entirely outside the realm of physical combat. But to truly appreciate the sheer scale of this defeat, we first need to take a step back and understand the raw, unadulterated power of the hero we're dealing with.
Section 1. A display of immense power.
Okay, to understand this mystery, we have to rewind to when these warriors were living out in the woods near King Vrishabhaparva's hermitage. We really need to establish Bhima's baseline power before he meets his match. The text states very clearly that Bhima possesses the combined physical strength of 10,000 elephants. Just let that sink in for a second. 10,000. This isn't just a really strong guy. This is an individual whose unrivaled might equates to a massive herd of the largest land animals on Earth. He is essentially a walking, breathing, natural disaster armed with a bow and a scimitar.
Now, I want you to contrast that immense, violent strength with his surroundings at this moment in the story. Bhima wanders into this breathtaking Himalayan forest that's frequented by gods and Gandharvas, and the source material paints an incredibly serene, almost heavenly picture for us. We're talking mountain streams with waters glistening like lapis lazuli. There are tens of thousands of snow-white ducks and swans gracefully swimming around. The forests of deodar trees are so toweringly high, they literally form a trap for the clouds. And the air? It's just filled with the melodic warbling of birds, the chakora, the shakrabaka, the cuckoo, the bringaraja. It is a total sensory masterpiece of peace and tranquility.
Well, as you might guess, Bhima is definitely not there to meditate. His presence is a chaotic disruption to all that peace. He's roaming the woods, totally absorbed in the chase, shooting off unpoisoned arrows. And then he just begins pulling out trees by the roots with incredible violence. He's snapping them, breaking them, causing the earth and the surrounding woods to just loudly resound with the destruction. He's shouting these strange whoops, slapping and clapping his hands, and utterly shattering the tranquility of the mountain.
Let's actually walk through the escalating steps of Bhima's rampage, just to prove that he is an absolutely fearless, unstoppable force of nature. First, using just the force of his arms, which, by the way, the text says are capable of resisting 100 men, he slays large wild boars, antelopes, and buffaloes. Second, he literally tramples the mountaintops, letting out his war cry and roaring so loudly that the earth itself shakes. And third, his shouts are so deafening and terrifying that powerful lions and huge elephants actually flee their lairs in absolute fright. Make no mistake, he is the apex predator out here, strolling fearlessly on foot.
Section 2. The colossal serpent.
So Bhima's terrifying whoops end up causing all the local snakes to panic and hide deep in the mountain fastnesses. But Bhima, being the fearless hunter he is, overtakes them and slowly pursues them deep into a dark cave. And inside that cave, he comes face to face with an immovable object. The text describes a serpent of colossal proportions. It's so massive it covers the entire cave. Its huge body is stretched out like a hillock, and it's a completely terrifying sight. Imagine a turmeric yellow body speckled with spots, and a deep copper-colored mouth that's shaped like a cave itself, complete with 4 massive teeth. With glaring eyes, this monster is just lying there, constantly licking the corners of its goat-devouring mouth.
And the source material
It doesn't just describe a really big snake here, it elevates this creature to a cosmic terror. The text compares the serpent directly to Yama, the destroyer. It is the very image of death and terror for all animated beings. It just lies there in the dark, and its heavy, hissing breath acts as this silent, menacing rebuke to any intruder who dares enter its domain. It's the kind of presence that causes your hair to stand on end just from sheer fright.
Section 3. Overpowered by a boon.
Which brings us to the sudden climax. Seeing Bhima draw near, this giant serpent becomes greatly enraged. It lunges forward and violently seizes Bhimasena in its grip. Now, you'd expect a massive, earth-shattering wrestling match here, right? On one side, you have Bhima, the conqueror of Yakshas, a guy with leonine shoulders and the strength of 10,000 elephants. On the other side, this ancient monster. But here is the crazy twist, explicitly stated in the text. Bhima isn't overpowered by muscle. He is overpowered by an unseen rule, a supernatural boon that the serpent had previously received. It's an invisible, unyielding force that completely and utterly negates physical strength.
Let's break down this tragic, frankly unthinkable sequence of events. First, he is seized violently. Second, and this is the really shocking part, by virtue of that supernatural boon, Bhima instantly loses all his consciousness and strength. The text notes, he trembles slowly, completely unable to exert himself. Third, even though he eventually tries to struggle furiously to extricate himself, his legendary strength is rendered completely useless. He fails to baffle the snake in any way whatsoever. The invincible hero is entirely, helplessly subdued.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. The source text goes to such incredible lengths to establish Bhima as the ultimate physical specimen, right? Only to have him instantly neutralized by a supernatural boon. It completely flips the script on what actually makes someone powerful. So I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. When physical might is rendered utterly useless by fate or some unseen supernatural rule, what true power does a hero actually have left? Really think about how that shifts our entire understanding of invincibility. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible depths of these stories. See you next time.